Picture this. Some friends you really trust, people you look up to, pull you aside one day, and they look worried. They tell you that whenever they're in your house, something just feels off, like there's a heavy negative spiritual energy hanging in the air, and they're worried about you. I mean, what a weird, disorienting thing to hear, right? It can make you feel confused, maybe a little freaked out, or even embarrassed. What are you supposed to do with that? How do you even begin to respond when people you care about are basically sounding a spiritual alarm about the one place on earth you're supposed to feel the most safe? Okay, let's get into it. We're going to break down a really practical, faith-based guide for this exact situation. The whole point is to turn that confusion into clarity and any fear into real, empowered action. First things first, let's get one thing straight. This is not about freaking out or getting paranoid. Not at all. It's about starting to see your home as more than just walls and furniture. It's a sacred space, a sanctuary, that you have every right and all the power to protect. Think of this whole explainer as a roadmap for taking back that peace, using spiritual tools that have been around forever to fill your home with light. We're on a journey here to build up your spirit and your home, not to get lost in the darkness. It's all about building, not breaking. So we're going to walk through this step by step. First up, we'll talk about how to actually take in that warning without losing your cool. Then we'll dive into the immediate practical things you can do to make your space feel safe again. After that, we'll get into the really powerful stuff, building up spiritual defenses that last. And finally, we'll talk about the importance of community and how you keep that peace going for the long haul. It's a clear path from that first uh-oh moment to feeling truly empowered. So let's start right there, in that first moment, that feeling of shock, when you first hear that warning. This whole first part is about how you frame it in your mind. This is not some judgment on you. It's just a call to awareness. Think of it as a little nudge from the universe, delivered by your friends, to just pay a little closer attention to your own space and, maybe even more importantly, to your own gut feeling. Okay, so this is the number one rule, right off the bat. When a loved one gives you a warning like this, the goal is not to make you afraid. The goal is to get you to take mindful action. Panic, it's just static. It clouds your thinking, it cuts you off from your own intuition, and it makes you feel totally powerless. But a calm, measured approach, that is the first real step toward finding a solution. Awareness is your best friend here. The warning didn't create a problem, it just shined a light on something that might have already been there, giving you the chance to finally deal with it. Now, what I love about this is the balance it strikes between what other people are telling you and what you're feeling inside. So, step 1, receive. This just means listening without immediately getting defensive. These are your friends, right? They care about you. So try to hear the love behind what they're saying and thank them for having the guts to say something. Step 2, reflect. This is where you got to turn inward. Before you do a single thing, just get quiet. Have you been feeling a little off in your own home? Have you been brushing off weird little things, or a constant feeling of unease is just nothing? Be real with yourself. And then, step 3, respond. And notice, it says respond, not react. Reactions are all about fear. A response is thoughtful, it's intentional, and it uses the powerful tools we're about to talk about. This next idea is so important. The guide talks about evil spirituality, but not in a way you see in movies. It's not some personal attack on you. It's more like a negative atmosphere that's just kind of settled over a place. Maybe it's from stuff that happened there years before you moved in, or just a slow buildup of stress or arguments. And shifting your perspective like this is incredibly empowering. It takes the problem from what's wrong with me to, okay, there's something going on in my environment and I can fix it. See the difference? Knowing what you're dealing with is the first step to actually dealing with it. So as you're thinking about this, ask yourself if any of this sounds familiar. That feeling of dread or just being on edge. Is it a general thing, or does it hit you the second you walk through your front door? What about unexplained sounds or seeing things out of the corner of your eye that you just tell yourself is your imagination? Or a pattern of bad luck, like appliances are always breaking or fights seem to erupt out of nowhere in the living room? And then there's sudden mood changes. You could be having an amazing day and then you sit down on your couch and suddenly you just feel drained or super irritable. The guide points out that sometimes we get so used to this stuff, we stop even noticing it. It just becomes our normal. So these signs are like little data points you can use to figure out what's really going on. All right, so you've listened with an open heart, you've done some reflecting, and you've decided, yep, I'm doing something about this. This next part is all about the immediate, hands-on steps you can take to build a solid foundation. Before you can do any of the deeper spiritual work, you have to make sure you're working from a place of safety and clarity. It's like securing your home base. So, what's the very first step? The most important thing here is to trust your gut. Your intuition is like your own personal spiritual compass. So, if, after thinking about it, you feel genuinely unsafe or just too overwhelmed to think straight in your own home, the guide actually suggests you think about leaving for a little bit. And this is not running away, it's not a defeat, it's a strategic pause. It's like a general pulling back to a secure location to plan their big attack. It's a power move that gives you the space to plan your next steps with a clear head, away from the very thing you're trying to fix. Now we get to the fun part, your cleansing toolkit. This is your immediate action plan for hitting the reset button on your home's energy. And notice where it starts, with physical cleaning. Declutter everything. Open all the windows, let the sunlight and fresh air in. A lot of traditions believe that negative energy literally sticks to junk and dust. So start there. Then you move into the spiritual cleansers. Salt has been used for ever to absorb negativity. Herbs like basil and rue are famous in folk traditions for protection. Burning incense like copal or frankincense is an ancient way to clear the air and just raise the good vibes of a space. And finally, sprinkling holy water is a really direct way of inviting blessings and peace into every single room. It's a multi-level attack on anything negative. Okay, so you've done the deep clean. You've hit the reset button. Now the work shifts. We're moving from being reactive to being proactive. You've cleared the slate. Now the goal is to fill your home with so much light and peace that there's just no room left for anything else. This is about building a spiritual fortress, and it's built on faith and intention, not on fear. Here we've got a powerful three-pronged approach that really works together. First, use scripture that's known for its power. Psalm 91 is famously called the soldier's psalm because it's this incredibly strong prayer for divine protection from everything. Second, use your own words. Speak from your heart to God or to whatever you believe in. Clearly state what you want. This home is a place of peace. This home is a place of love. And third, visualization. This is you actively participating. You don't just say it, you see it. You picture this brilliant, unbreakable shield of light all around your home, under it, over it, everywhere. You're using your mind, your voice, and your spirit all at once to build this protection. Just wow. Let those words sink in for a second. That's not a timid ask for help. That is a bold declaration of safety. The picture it paints is one of complete refuge, being covered, being sheltered. Saying words like these out loud in your home, it's more than a ritual. It's like you're changing the very vibration of the space, tuning it to this powerful promise of peace. And this right here, this is the goal. This is what you're creating with all those prayers and visualizations. This is what you're building, a sanctuary, a beacon of light totally shielded by your faith. And here's the key. You have the spiritual authority to do this. It's your home. You're the one in charge of its energy, and you get to decide what's welcome and what's not. Period. So how do you make it official? How do you really lock in that protection? Well, here are a few powerful ways. You can ask a priest or a pastor to come do a formal house blessing, which is a big deal. But you can absolutely do it yourself too, using blessed oil to anoint your doors and windows while you pray. The guide also suggests praying specifically for angels to stand guard over your property. And finally, there's the simple but incredibly powerful act of dedication. Literally walking through your home out loud and declaring that this space is for light, for peace, for God. You just keep reinforcing it until it's an undeniable fact. All right, we're on the home stretch, but this part is so important. You've cleansed and you've fortified, but spiritual health isn't a one-and-done thing. It's more like tending a garden. It needs continuous care. And a huge piece of that is realizing you're not meant to do it alone. Reaching out for help isn't a sign that you're weak, it's a sign that you're wise. There is so much power when people come together. The guide mentions prayer evangelism, which is this cool idea that a group of people praying can shift the spiritual vibe of not just one house, but a whole neighborhood, creating these ripples of peace. It's about leaning on those same trusted friends who warned you in the first place for their support and prayers. And if things are really persistent, there are even structured spiritual warfare prayers that you can do with your faith community to actively push back against negativity. The message here is simple. You are not in this fight by yourself. So, how do you keep that peaceful vibe going? Honestly, think of it like spiritual housekeeping. You wouldn't let your house get dusty and grimy for years, right? Same idea. You can make offerings of flowers or incense if that feels right to you. You can put up protective symbols, crosses, medals, whatever speaks to your faith, right at your front door as a constant reminder of what your home is all about. And you just practice being vigilant. That means doing a cleansing every so often, like a spiritual spring cleaning, or any time after something stressful has happened, just to keep the energy clear, bright, and strong. And this all leads to the biggest mindset shift of all. That warning from your friends, the one that might have felt like a criticism or even a curse, it was actually a gift. It was a wake-up call that gave you the chance to consciously take charge of your own space. This whole process turns you from being a passive victim of your environment into an active, empowered steward of your own sanctuary. You have the tools, you have the authority, and you have the faith to create peace wherever you go. So let's end on this one thought. As you start to intentionally create more peace, more gratitude, and more faith inside yourself, that energy can't help but radiate outward. It will transform your home from the inside out. At the end of the day, creating a sanctuary isn't really about cleaning a house. It's about taking care of the garden of your own soul. Your home just becomes a mirror of the peace that you're building within. So the real question this whole journey leaves us with is a personal one. What will you choose to reflect?